evening. Welcome to the Town Board, Rhinebeck Town Board meeting. It's May 13th. Would everybody please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have a motion for the approval of our prior minutes from our April 22nd regular town board meeting?
So moved.
Thanks, Johnson. May I have a second? Thanks, Alan. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. I have a couple of announcements. The town will be collecting town and county tax until June 1st, and there is a 4% late fee until June 1st. After June 1st, it will go to the county for collection. Ed Roberts is ill tonight, so he sends his regrets that he can't be here. He has a bad cold. Pool opens Memorial Day weekend, and it'll be open on weekends until school's out of session, when it will be open full time. And I think, Alan, you have an announcement about the painting?
Yes. Some of you know Carol Lee, a longtime resident of Rhinebeck, passed away a couple months ago. And my wife is her executor. But in any case, we decided to put up one of her paintings in Town Hall, which is to my left. She was an artist, she was a writer, a good friend of the town, advocate for seniors, an animal lover, loved all kinds of animals, except the pigs that she raised. Anyway, so we all miss Carol, and I thought it'd be great to have one of her pieces of art in the room here.
She was a founding member of our aging committee and served on our recreation committee, and we miss her. Thank you. We'll go to announcements and committee and liaison reports later. We have a public hearing, continuation of a public hearing scheduled for tonight at 6 p.m. It's the continuation of the public hearing on a local law amending Town Code Chapter 125 zoning in the matter of establishing a workforce housing district as a floating zone, providing a procedure for locating a workforce housing district, and setting forth regulations for the development therein. Warren, could you please sort of introduce what we're doing before we start taking public comment?
Sure. At the last public hearing, there seemed to be, based on the comments that we received, there appeared to be some misunderstanding about what this law is all about, and what it can and what it can't do, and how it came into being. The proposal is to create a workforce housing district as a floating zone in only two village gateway zones, which lie north and west adjacent to the village. The intent here is to allow the town board, upon an application of a developer, and it would probably be a not-for-profit type of developer who may be working in conjunction with the town to develop a workforce affordable housing project in these two districts. And that the developer would come into the town at some point, if this floating zone is passed, and request a rezoning for property within that district. The law that we're going to pass tonight, or we're going to have a public hearing on tonight, I don't know that we'll vote on it, will not create any sort of affordable housing project. All it does is create a floating zone in which the potential for a project could happen in the future in a certain well-defined area of the town that the town board and the comprehensive plan committee and the committee that created the zoning for the town felt could accommodate a project of this sort because of its proximity to good roads and its proximity to public water and sewage supply. So if this law is passed, all this will do is create these two limited districts, the potential for some time in the future for a project to come to the town board for a proposal to create a workforce housing project which would allow for a little bit more density than is allowed in our current zoning law for these types of projects. We do have in our zoning law a workforce housing law which provides mandates for affordable housing for development in the town. It's quite an extensive law, and it was developed as an outgrowth of the comprehensive plan, which encourages the creation of workforce housing for residents of the community and the surrounding area. We have an obligation to have those types of housing available to people who live and work in the town who may not be able to afford some of the prices of rentals and purchases in the town. And it's not only a requirement of our comprehensive plan and our zoning law, it's a requirement of decisional law in the state of New York. The courts in the state of New York have held that communities who develop zoning, such as we have in Rhinebeck, which is what we call large lot zoning, have an obligation to make sure that they're not zoning out people who want to live and work in the community who may not be able to afford to develop on large lots in accordance with the zoning that we have put into place. So we put this, one, because it's the right thing to do for the town, and two, because we're required to do it by law. And if we don't do it, then we don't meet our affordable housing obligations, and the town could be held to task for that by the courts. So what we're hoping to do is pass this law. It may be that it might be 10 years from now before a development project comes before the board. It could be 5 years from now. A lot will depend on the availability of land. A lot will depend on the economy, and will also depend on finding a not-for-profit or other organization that will come into the town who will do something like this. And perhaps it might be in partnership with the town. And that's the way most of these workforce and affordable housing projects are achieved. It's hard to get developers to pay the full cost of this. We have to have some incentive on the town's part. So the first incentive is the passage of this law. If we don't pass this law, I am afraid that the opportunity may be lost for us to find a good spot for a workforce housing project in the future. We have a similar law that's in our zoning law for senior citizen development project. The world hasn't come to an end. We haven't had a problem as a result of that law. And I think that the passage of this law will turn out to be a beneficial and good project for the town and for the surrounding community. So with that, I leave it up to the public comment.
Thank you, Lauren. Would anybody like to speak?
Hi, I'm Jonathan Mensch. I'm the chair of the Affordable Housing Committee. And I just wanted to give a little bit of background to what Warren was outlining. Our committee was formed after the comprehensive plan was passed in order to develop strategies for the development of affordable housing in Rhinebeck. Yeah, is this better? Can you hear me? All right. Yeah. So we've been working on this for probably 5 years. And what we found through a whole number of meetings with nonprofit affordable housing developers, with state officials, with people that are really involved with the creation of workforce housing, is that a certain amount of density is required to make a project financially feasible. And that amount of density, even in the Village Gateway District, which is already the highest density area in Rhinebeck, wasn't enough to make the economics work. So if somebody were to take on a project, and we don't have anybody that's really looking to take on a project right now, but were to happen in the future, there would need to be a mechanism for them to build at a higher density than is currently allowed in town. And really, the only thing that this law does is it provides an opportunity, if somebody steps forward that's looking to develop a workforce housing project, to approach the town board and the planning board and ask for permission to develop at a higher density than is currently allowed. That whole project would get analyzed in that context. Whether or not it's the right thing in that particular parcel, whether it's not the right thing given individual circumstances, is a discussion for another day. This is really just a mechanism to create the framework that would allow something like this to come forward and be feasible. It requires state tax credits, requires a bunch of different funding sources. It's a hard thing to pull together. But if we don't have the density available, nobody can even start. And the way that this law works is it's pegged to 80% of median income. We conducted a study with Pattern for Progress, which is a nonprofit public policy group based in the Hudson Valley. And they did a study about the need for affordable housing in Rhinebeck, and they really identified two target groups. One is seniors that are struggling to make their real estate finances work, and the other one are younger people that are working in a lot of the shops in town and the restaurants in town. They identified rental units as being a priority. The way this law works is somebody to be eligible to be in this development could make no more than 80% of the area median income, make 80% of what the average person in this area makes, which is actually a pretty high number. But we're not talking about Section 8 housing. We're not talking about anything like that. We're just talking about a situation that would allow seniors to live comfortably and allow younger people to sort of get a start and then hopefully buy their own houses and sort of develop a life and live in town. But if we don't do this, no project like that can happen in the future because there's just not enough building density available. So I just wanted to clarify that. And
Jonathan, what is the current density allowed now?
it's six units per acre.
And the floating zone?
It goes up to 10. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
I just wanted to add to that if a project does come to the town board, it would have to go through a very intensive legislative act of rezoning, of approving a rezoning of the project for that particular project. This just rezones the property generically to allow that to happen. But for a project-specific proposal to come before the town, would go before the town board. And the town board would very carefully scrutinize that project. There would be public hearings. There would be intensive environmental review. The town board would be working with the planning board to develop that project. And the public would have an opportunity to weigh in on that specific project. And it's possible that it may not happen. The town board may turn it down. When you rezone a piece of property through a legislative act, the town has ultimate discretion as to whether it wants to approve it or not. So it's a better process than a special permit application in that the town board can simply say to the development proposal, we're not going to do it, we don't feel it's in the interest of the town. And the town has complete control over that process. And there would be working in conjunction with the planning board to develop that project if and when it comes to the town board.
Thank you. Anybody else want to comment? Meg, come on up.
I just have a couple of questions because I haven't been here recently. I just remember when this all started years and years ago, and I applaud you for trying to make it easier for a developer to come in and do this. I just wonder where on the map these two locations are, and you said that water and septic or sewage is available to those two areas, so I'm just curious as to where it is.
So they're in the Village Gateway. One is north on Route 9 around Eveready, and the other one is on, sorry, they're in our Village Gateway districts. One is north of the village around the Eveready, and the other is west of the village on Rhine Cliff Road, just opposite the library. It's
In the highway department? No.
between the highway department and the village.
On the west?
Yes, on the north side of Rhine Cliff Road. So there is access to village sewer and village water, and both areas are walkable.
And there's still capacity for that?
Sorry?
There's still capacity
Yes.
for that?
Thank you. Does anybody else want to speak? Dodd, come on up. You can refer to our zoning map on our website. You can go to the town website and search for our zoning map, and it's VG Village Gateway. We have a colored map, and you can see exactly where the two areas are. I think we have a link to it too on our on the front page of our website, and we have a map up there. But yeah, we have a map right up there. Sorry, Todd. Hi.
Todd Crane, village resident and prior town board member. I was on the town board when we did the original zoning.
Speak up.
Approved it. I was on the town board in 2009 when we approved the original zoning, and I was on the original Affordable Housing Committee formed as part of the zoning work we did in the 05-09 period, and then rejoined the Affordable Housing Committee a few years ago. I'd just like to urge the board to vote. I'd just like to urge the board to vote for this law in its current form. I think it's an excellent law. Also, in reference to something Warren mentioned, isn't it true that the materials we put into the zoning and comprehensive plan that were approved in 09, including the references to affordable housing, were used as part of the defense in 2 lawsuits already? Is that correct?
Partly. We did create we were concerned when we passed the zoning law because of the upzoning or the downzoning, however you want to call it, that we included in the law that the town would be potentially sued by property owners who claim in part that we didn't fulfill our affordable housing requirements, which, by the way, relate not only to the town of Rhinebeck, but the decisional law in New York State talks in terms of neighboring municipalities and helping neighboring municipalities meet their affordable housing needs also. So it's not just limited to helping the town, it's to help the village and to help Red Hook and surrounding communities. Yeah, there were 2 lawsuits that were filed, and in part, that was one of the issues that were raised, and
I think the judge made reference to that in at least one of those cases, as I recall.
Pardon?
I thought the judge made reference to
our
statement of intent.
Yeah.
And then, just the other point is, in working recently with the Affordable Housing Committee, as we met with developers and understood how they finance these projects, the laws are changing in how these projects are financed in terms of the tax credits that the affordable housing developer gets in order to get money back for the investment they're making to build these structures. Those laws have changed and made it less, not unattractive, but less attractive. And in our current economic climate, I'm concerned that more law changes may come that will further deteriorate the opportunity to get the appropriate funding for these projects. So I just encourage the board to take that as a urgent message that we need to get this law passed, and then so we can demonstrate developers that they're serious about trying to solve this problem before further law changes might occur that could further deteriorate the economic underpinning of projects like this. Thank you.
Thanks, Todd.
Also, very comment on that. When we passed the original zoning law in 2009, the comprehensive plan, there was a different economic development climate in Rhinebeck. The law was passed at a time that the town was very much concerned with overdevelopment in the town. And we had thought that the affordable housing law that we created in the original law would exact some affordable housing through development, through set-asides, and through payment of fees in lieu of affordable housing. Unfortunately, the economic climate has changed, and we haven't had the type of development in the town, maybe fortunately, that would have filled the coffers of the town with affordable housing funds. We've had some, but we haven't had a lot of projects that have come in and have been set aside for affordable housing. So you have to shift your focus now in today's climate to how you're going to achieve these affordable housing or workforce housing goals. And this is what a lot of communities are doing in terms of increasing the density, the possibility of the town partnershiping with these types of developers to make it possible.
Anybody else like to comment, please?
Hi, I just have one question since...
Can you introduce yourself?
Oh, sorry, yeah, George Baker, 65 West Market Street. Forgive me if this question seems somewhat selfish since we live right next to where you're referring to, but I'm curious since when we arrived, we naively made some inquiries with Mr. Fenton regarding just what the feasibility of hooking up to any kind of municipal sewer that may or may not exist since we didn't really know. We knew we had a septic on the property. And he said if they weren't going to run one up the hill for the library, they're not going to do that for you. So I'm just curious where the infrastructure exactly does exist that would permit public sewer to go past us with us not having it.
Well, I don't know offhand where it ends, but we've spoken with the mayor and the village and the departments, and there's capacity for it to be expanded. It would have to be a part of the infrastructure put in for a development.
The infrastructure would have to be extended probably to those properties, but it's close enough that there is that possibility.
So it would go past us from the village up into?
We
Well,
don't know, we don't have
where this is going to happen.
we don't have a project before
Yeah,
us,
yeah.
so we have nothing, but we know that there's capacity and we know that it would be put in or mandated that it be put in as part of the project.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to comment? Please come up then.
Steve Leon, I'm their president. My question is,
Into the mic, please, I can.
workforce housing, curious to know how you get the potential residents to comply. Do they have to be residents or working on that? How would a developer be able to exclude somebody that's not?
It could be anybody, it could be anybody in the county. We have an obligation, as Warren said, to offer affordable housing, not just for our residents, but for neighboring towns.
Then it's just affordable housing. Why would you call it workforce housing?
It's workforce housing, it's not Section 8, it's not subsidized, it's workforce housing.
But not necessarily for migrant residents.
Could be for, there have been point systems, could be, in the past, we've had point systems for people to qualify. If you're a fire, a volunteer fire, local firefighter, if you work here, if you've lived here, there's a point system and you score on those points. And I think Patterns for Project and Hudson River Housing has helped us in the past with the point system.
The point system is in our current law. That's why I urged people at the last meeting to actually read the current affordable housing law that's in our zoning law, which would answer your question if you read that. You didn't? Well, maybe you'd better read it closely.
And then, since I'm here, and then the questions, general observation.
Louder, please.
I'm sorry. The two sites that you have available, I spoke to various people at City Hudson that have been looking at the West Market Street property. They've been looking at it for years. They knew nothing about this workforce housing, and they're going to start getting more active. Their point is that particular piece of property, not from the Astor Park, but coming towards it, it's a perfect segue in and out of Rhinebeck. I would think that property, under many circumstances, you should be looking to preserve it. Because any developer that's going to go in there is going to take out that entire parcel. That's for sure. And it's irreplaceable. Like if you have up on Route 9 or down by the gardens, property that's already a field, it's clear cut, it's level. I'm really not quite certain why you would even consider that property for this kind of development.
You realize that property is currently
It's owned by the hospital.
developable, and the hospital could develop it today if they wanted to.
They could, but you're changing the zoning for no kids. But you know, I spoke to them, and there's no plan. They might do something years and years in the future. They're not looking for big developments.
Thank you. Anybody else like to comment or have any questions? Nobody? Should we close our, would you like to come?
Question.
Come on up, please. Yes, please.
Maybe everybody else already knows this, but what I wondered was,
Can you give us your name?
Susan Bentley,
Hi.
are the floating zones available to people who are developing non-affordable housing? In other words, could developers come in and use up that space that has been designated before an affordable developer wanted to come in, and then it wouldn't be any left? That's all.
Yes, it could be developed by somebody
Yeah,
else.
the zoning, the floating zone is only for affordable housing. It doesn't change the underlying zoning that's in those two districts. So a developer could come in and do development
Under the current zoning
under the
that's
current
allowed.
zoning.
So there's no land that's set aside for this workforce housing?
No, no. It's only gives the possibility of a developer coming in only in those two zones to come to the town board for a more specific rezoning of that particular property where they want to site the project. We have no idea where that might be or whether it would ever happen. But it doesn't change the underlying zoning that's in existence today. So the developer or anybody who wants to develop property in those two zones, we just employ the zoning restrictions and provisions that are currently in the zoning law for those two districts.
So if they want somebody quick before it's all going. We need to get an affordable developer soon before those properties are developed by.
Well, to be honest with you, that's one of the reasons why we want to do this, so that we don't have to go through this process of putting this into place. If the opportunity presents itself, we want to be ready for that.
Does anybody else want to comment or have any questions? Okay, hearing none, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. I would suggest that we table voting on this because we still have to do our seeker. And we should put that on our agenda for our next meeting. Would that work for you, Warren?
It works for me. I certainly could be here for the next meeting, at least part of it. And I've already sent to you some documents which I'd like you to look over before the next meeting. So now that the public hearing is closed, what we would do next time we get together on this would be to review the part 2 of the full environmental assessment form and a part 3, which I have prepared only in an advisory capacity for your review, and then make a
I'm sorry, part
determination.
2 of the EAF?
Part 2 of the EAF, and then the part 3, which is the actual rationale for your secret determination. And then we would make our secret determination as to whether this does have the potential for significant impacts. And if it does not, then we would issue what's known as a negative declaration, and then move on to a vote on the actual law.
I think we don't have to bring it to the floor, but John, could you put it on our agenda? Could you put reviewing part 2 of our EAF and part 3 of our seeker on our next agenda with voting on adopting the proposal? All right, thank you. President Norm Magnuson about a plaque for us. And I saw that Nancy, are you here? Ah, there she is. Good. Thank you for coming. I also want to talk to you about a road naming. We have a road naming proposed here, so I want to refer that to you. I guess we'll take a minute while everybody leaves. Thank you for coming, everybody. Norm, why don't you come on up and...
I did, thank you so much.
Hold on 1 second, Norm, we'll let it settle down. Okay,
I can stay for a while.
I think we're good. Does anybody have anything that? Power outage. I think we can handle the rest. Well, we have a tertiary matter, but I think we're fine. Thank you. Thanks for coming, Warren. Okay, if everybody could please settle down. We have a meeting going on. You can speak outside if you like. Norm Magnuson.
You too?
Yeah.
That's just been the good part.
Whatever's going on today, I support it.
Yeah.
Hi, Norm.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Magnuson, as mentioned. So there's this group, the William G. Pomeroy Foundation, and they give out grants to New York State entities, municipalities and whatnot, to cover the cost of creating historical markers.
Those blue and yellow
Blue and
rim
yellow
markers.
historical markers that you see all over the place.
Yeah.
And somebody sent this to me because I have some history doing historical markers as art projects. And I thought it'd be great if there were a historical marker in Rhinebeck celebrating its history as the violet capital of the world. And so I sent an email to Elizabeth and all of y'all, and I hope you saw it.
And Nancy, our historian.
And well, today I spoke to Nancy, who's super, super helpful, and eventually I'll have to speak to Mike Frazier as well. Basically, I'm here to propose me volunteering to shepherd this through the system, to write the grant application, and to do all of the research. The Pomeroy Foundation pays for 100% of it. What they require from the applicant is good historical research to back up the claims that are on the marker. Mike wrote the book on Rhinebeck, so and I guess he's the head of the Rhinebeck Historical Society. So he would have access to that information and hopefully work with me to get the phrasing just right. These things, they allow only 27 characters per line. It's really tough to get too much information in them. I did prepare a mock-up, which I sent to all of you. And I'd just like to read it now. So in case you don't know what we're talking about, it's these historical markers. And this one reads, Violet Capital of the World. From the late 1800s to the early 1900s, Rhinebeck was the world's leading grower of violets, then in demand as gifts and corsages. And each of the markers is signed off instead of New York State or the name of the municipality by the William G. Pomeroy Foundation and the year in which it's been created. So that's basically it. Their deadline for this is June 14th. And that's the deadline for the letter of intent, and the a little bit off, but also supply your primary sources to back up the claims that will be on the market. So I'd like to propose by the end of this month that I get together with Mike and we work out the phrasing of this and what the history, the primary sources can back up, and then bring that back and present it to you all along with a recommendation on where we could cite this thing. And that's the other thing the Pomeroy Foundation needs is a letter from the landowner, unless it's state or municipal land.
Does right-of-way count?
Yes.
Can it go in the right-of-way?
Yes, I believe it can.
And you don't need a letter from a landowner for right-of-way, or you do?
I believe you don't.
Okay.
Regardless, I don't think anybody would say no to this. It's a lovely part of Rhinebeck history, and there's lots of different places to cite it.
Well, how do you guys feel about it? Kira?
I think it's sweet. I think it's a lovely way of sharing a piece of our history with people who are visiting and people who are local.
Alan?
I think it's a great idea, but why wouldn't you put the signs where the greenhouses were, that grew the wild?
Well,
They were all over.
Well, they're paying for one sign. I mean, at the peak, there were like 400 greenhouses in the area. They say that, from Hyde Park up to Red Hook was the violet belt, and Rhinebeck was the buffalo on that belt.
Oh, Chauncey, what do you think?
I wish it were tulips, but I like the idea.
Oh,
I wish it were hyacinth.
I think it's terrific too. Nancy, you're willing to work with Norm on this and Mike Frazier and shepherd it through? Yeah? Fantastic.
Nancy's already been super helpful.
Great. What is our next town board meeting? The 10th. You have to have everything ready for us to approve on our meeting on June 10th. So just be in touch with me and John so that we can get it on the agenda for the 10th.
Okay, I certainly will. And if possible, I would like to present it to you before then, because the deadline is the 14th. If there's any bumps
We
in the
do
road.
not have a meeting then. You can send it to us via email and we can weigh in before that. But I mean, I think we're all in favor of this, and I don't really think we need to approve the wording if Nancy and Mike Frazier are working with you. If our historians, I mean, I believe that. I don't have any expertise on this, so I'm entrusting you to our town historian.
Perfect. Thank
Does
you
that
so
sound? So I mean, I think we could be ready to approve it on the 10th, is what I'm saying.
Perfect.
But if you'd like to check in with us before then, we can do that via email. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, I think that sounds reasonable. It also has to be approved by the Pomeroy Foundation. Like there are already added checks built in,
Right.
and so
So
we trust
this would all just be to prepare the proposal for approval by the town.
Great. Well, get in touch with me via email or phone, and I can get in touch with the rest of the board, but we'll be ready for you on the 10th.
Great.
Thanks for coming, and thank you for doing this. Nancy, don't go yet, because I'm going to take the meeting out of order here. I'd like to, tab number 12, everybody. I'll make a motion for Resolution 2019-137, approving the proposed name of the private drive located on parcel ID numbers 559-777, 651813, and 686803. May I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Kira. Nancy, we have a request here for naming of a private road on 3 little parcels that are just north of Ackert Hook Road, just east of Route 9, and the request for the name is Danny Drive. But I thought that we should refer this to you because it's right across the street from that very old Dutch cottage that's sort of an acre notched out of Grassmere, and maybe there's something historically significant there that we could, propose another name for instead of this. So I wanted to refer it to you and see if you could take a look at it for us.
That was the Van Steenberg Tavern.
So that there isn't if you could look at it for us and let us know, we would like to get in touch with the owner or the county, and if there's something historically significant that would fit that area, we would like to consider that. Does that sound okay? So I will email this to you. Is that all right with you guys?
Yeah, sure.
So can we table this?
Yeah, sure.
Great. This will be tabled, and I'll refer it to Nancy. Thank you. Should we go back? We'll just go back to our normal. We'll do the resolutions, and then if we have any committee and liaison reports, we can do that last. I'd like a motion for tab 1, Resolution 2019-104, the annual 284 agreement for the expenditure of highway monies.
So moved.
Alan, may I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Chauncey. I have to propose some amendments to this. I would like to change on item 1, the general repairs. The sum is not 338,500,000. It's 497,745. That is the amount we have budgeted in our 2019 budget for general repairs. So that needs to be amended. I would like to amend the $172,000 in Section A for Pell's Road. Bear with me. I'm confused by my own amendments now. Our budget has $200,000 in there, so we need to transfer. We need to transfer $38,000 from, this is a budget transfer that we have to do, John, from line 0030451122227. Transfer $38,000 out of that line and transfer $15,000 into Wurtenberg Road, which is line 003045112-223. And we need to transfer $13,000 into line 003045112-224, which is Old Post Road, $13,000. No? I'll give this to you later. Okay, I have it. Yes, I'll give it to you later. And we need to transfer $10,000 into Berger Road, which is 003045112-226. May I have
These numbers change any of the work descriptions, just the pricing?
The numbers in the 284 are incorrect, and I'm making them correct with our budget and with what they need to be.
I understand. My question is, does any of the work descriptions change?
No, the amounts change. So may I have a motion for my amended transfers?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Kira. May I have a second? Is there any discussion on this? The amended transfers and the amended amount of our general repairs money. All in favor of the amended transfers? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. We have an open resolution on the floor to agree to our annual 284. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Because residents on Pell's Road were concerned that an asphalt repaving of the road would change the rural character, Barry is also going to chip seal it with oil after. The road will not be widened, it will only be replaced exactly as it is. It says 19 feet here because that is what is in our state inventory, and that's what we must go by. But Barry has been down widening the road to assure that it won't be widened. So thank you. I need a motion for item number 2, Resolution 2019-125, construction and improvement of roads at Town Cemetery, tabled from our last meeting. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Alan. May I have a second? Thank you, Chauncey. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. I will make a motion for Resolution 219-128 for our preliminary accounts payables abstracts, 47 checks totaling $77,426.09. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kira. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. I will make a motion for Resolution 2019-129 for our capital projects abstracts. There are 2 checks totaling $4,847.99. May I have a second? Thank you, Chauncey. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. I would like a motion for Resolution 2019-130 for the disposal of non-functioning office equipment in our court. May I have a thank you, Alan. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kira. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. I would like a motion for Resolution 219-131 to appoint Rachel Hyman, who is currently a member of the Conservation Advisory Board, to her expired term. May I have a motion? Thank you, Chauncey. May I have a second? Thank you, Alan. Rachel's done a great job for us and wishes to continue serving, and we're happy to have her. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. I'd like a motion for Resolution 2019-132 for our Amazon Prime business membership. May I have a motion? Thank you. Alan, may I have a second? Thank you, Chauncey. This is so employee members don't use personal Amazon accounts or highway department use their personal Amazon accounts. There are often things that we can't get locally that we can get on Amazon while we have accounts for our local shops. This is in reserve for when we don't. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved.
I do appreciate that note.
Thanks. Resolution 2019-133 for a recreation refund request. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Alan. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Chauncey. We have had, it is our policy to only refund with a board request. Somebody, mother signed her kids up for camp for the wrong week for her summer vacation schedule, so has requested the refund. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Item number 9, Resolution 2019-134. I would like a motion for summer 2019 Recreation Department hires. Thank you. Alan, may I have a second? Thank you, Chauncey. This is for Jane O'Connor and Ann Noakes as the Manta Rays head coach and swim team coach. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? So moved. We need a motion for Resolution 2019-135 for the creation of a seasonal part-time laborer position at the Recreation Department. Thank you, Alan. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kira. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. I need a motion for Resolution 2019-136, a contract for cleaning services for the town pool, bathrooms, and concession stand. Thank you. May I have a second? Thank you, Chauncey. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. I will make a motion for Resolution 2019-138 for our settlement of the tax certiorari proceedings for the town of Rhinebeck and Tops Market. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kira. I know that I put you all in touch with our certiorari attorney, Karen Hagstrom, and our assessor. Does anybody have any further questions or comments or statements? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. I would like a motion for Resolution 2019-139 for the replacement of our Recreation Park pool refrigerator.
Motion.
Thank you, Alan. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Chauncey. Is there any discussion or questions or comments?
I just don't want to use what's there. It's bad news.
Well, it doesn't work. Yeah. It doesn't keep things cold.
Right, which is a health
Kind of a
concern. So,
yeah.
that's
It's not to exceed $348. Any further questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Resolution 2019-140 for employee pool passes. Thank you, Alan. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kira. This is for town employees only, not elected officials, and for their partners and children or children under the age of 18. We do this every year, and it's a practice that our employees appreciate. Is there any further discussion or any questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. New business. Yes, there is some new business. I have new business. Do I pass out the new business, or does everybody have the new business? Is that okay? This is our local law for zoning, which we're holding aside. Resolution 2019-141. May I have a motion authorizing the expenditure of funds for pickleball courts, Chauncey?
I'll make that motion.
Chauncey, thank you. Is there any discussion?
I think that since it's something new, it'd be really great to have the rules or some other way of getting more people involved. That's something I'd love to see.
Well, that's the
I think Chauncey's forming a pickleball club.
I've been accused of soliciting supporters for the idea. The goal will be to put pickleball lines on a couple of the tennis courts in Thompson Mesrell Park. That's what this resolution authorizes. The cost will probably be less than $500. And then we are working with the high school to make arrangements to play there during the winter time in the middle school gym. That's where we are.
Terrific. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Pickleball, welcome to Rhinebeck.
Tournaments.
Yeah. Is there any other new business that anybody has? I just wanted to update you all on where Chauncey and I, we are on the zoning review group, and I wanted to pass this out to you. We've had 2 or 3 meetings, Chauncey?
I think the one last week was the third.
So we will be coming to you for all of these that are going to be local laws, but I just wanted to let you know what we were doing. Highlighted in yellow and Bill, here's a copy for you, that we're working on. Definitions, we always find our planning board, our zoning administrator always finds little conflicts in definitions, or sometimes a law will contradict itself from one section to another, so we always do cleanup. So what we're looking on doing is the definitions for a townhome, a condo, a guest room, and a suite, and many more. We are looking to define use consistencies in our table of uses. But this will all come to you. Helicopters and light aircraft landing are not allowed in Rhinebeck because they are not on our use table, but we have had issues of people landing helicopters. So we are crafting a law that makes it clear that helicopters are not to be landed on private land. They can of course be landed for emergencies at the fairground, but people cannot commute to and from Rhinebeck in private helicopters. We're looking at strengthening our vacant building laws. We are looking at revising our solar farm law with regard to the roof-mounted array screening. We are looking at our sign law for compatibility with protected First Amendment content. There have been recent cases, so we have to amend our sign law. We are considering looking at the 9 and 9G corridor use. That is a large project, the whole development of our 9 and 9G corridor. We have a law that limits any commercial buildings to 8,000 square feet. So we have a conundrum of how do hotels come to the town? And we are, don't have a lot of hotels in the town, and if people wanted to build them, they would be limited to 8,000 square feet. So we are considering how we do that. We are looking at revising our events code for conference center and special events in the HP 20. We are looking at live-work definitions and revisions of people who live and work in their houses. We have been asked to consider an artist overlay, and I'm not exactly sure what that is, but it would allow greater flexibility for artist studios and studio visits within home properties. Historic preservation law still has not been finished, and we have, I think Chauncey is responsible for wrangling that one with Warren, which seems to be coming along. We have some agricultural related items. People have come to us recently for breweries and tasting rooms. So we want to be able to see how we could allow that within agricultural districts. We have to review our peddler law for food trucks. Short-term rentals, which is huge, is on there, and some adaptive reuses. I give this to you publicly just so you know, even though you're copied on things, what we're doing, to keep you in the loop and to remind you that anything that comes of this will be adopted by a local law, and so you will be involved in that process. But I just wanted to publicly bring you up to date and see if any of you had any other concerns or things that you wanted us to look at.
I think you pretty much covered all of the pieces that I would want to see addressed.
And we always keep a list. Public members of the public or any interested parties could always write to us or call us, and we would consider things. I don't think, are there any other discussion items or any, does anybody want to update committee or liaison reports?
I could talk about the LED street lighting project. Not much has been happening, and for good reason, but I'd like to wait until the next meeting. I think there will be some developments in the interim, so I haven't forgotten about it. The village is continuing to work on the project as well, and probably more in a month, which is not to suggest we're getting anywhere near starting construction, but it's still alive.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Is there any comment from the public or anybody regarding anything? Hearing nothing, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Thank you, everybody. Good night, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.